switch gears to an issue riling school communities across the country. How do we teach race and racism in America? Tonight, we speak with teacher Matthew Hawn, who was fired from a rural Tennessee high school after teaching high school kids about white privilege. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Hawn. Let's just dive right in here. You taught a high school class called Contemporary Issues and discussed white privilege. You were then reprimanded for assigning an article titled "The First White President," and you were terminated shortly thereafter after you played a video by a spoken word artist called White Privilege. Here's part of that video.
What is white privilege? It is the only 5 decades of legal acknowledgement expected to correct 400 years of white transgression.
What did you want your students to learn from the article and also the spoken word poem?
Hi, thank you for having me. You know, Contemporary Issues is a class that I get to develop the curriculum for. And it's a class where I get to introduce students to a variety of perspectives. And, you know, what better perspectives to listen to in a school that's almost entirely white, in a county that's almost entirely white, than an award-winning author, Ta-Nehisi Coates, and an avant-garde poet, Kyla Janae Lacey. You know, my class is where we investigate the claims that people make. And Ta-Nehisi Coates makes claims in that essay. Kyla Janae Lacey makes claims in that essay. And so I allow my students to form their own ideas about what they say and allow them to research and either validate or invalidate those claims.
Now, in its termination letter, the school wrote, and I want to quote here, "Concepts like white privilege remain perfectly appropriate, but in addition to accusing you of not offering varying points of view, they also objected to the inappropriate language in the video." As you might suspect, much of this video is too profanity-laced for us to put it on air. Would you say that the school and some of the parents really were all that off base for raising that concern?
You know, I think anytime parents are concerned is a good thing, or whenever parents get involved in students' education is a good thing. You know, that poem, the language in that poem was redacted. You know, every student that testified at my appeal in August, they testified to that very thing. And so whenever we get uncomfortable, you know, by these very powerful pieces, we have to really ask ourselves, what are we uncomfortable by? You know, if the language is redacted, and we're talking about upperclassmen students, you know, high school juniors and seniors, and in a school that reads Toni Morrison, you know, that reads Catcher in the Rye, that reads To Kill a Mockingbird. And so, you know, I would just kind of maybe take a little issue with that and say, look, I did my job to present these students with a varying viewpoint and tried to, or did redact the language in that, in keeping with the reprimand.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on that because you're saying it was redacted. You're saying that you didn't play any profanity. The school says you did. Why would there even be a discrepancy between, I mean, it's either you did or you didn't.
Mm-hmm. Well, I press mute as the profanity was being played. And so a couple slipped through, but, you know, the fact that I tried to do that I attempted to do that, I think it says a lot about, you know, what I do as a teacher and the care and the time that I took into it. You know, that's actually kind of a very difficult thing to do. It may sound easy, but it's very difficult.
You said that you were not teaching critical race theory, but even so, Tennessee now has a law restricting how race and racism is taught in schools. So one part of that law says that you can't teach that, quote, an individual by virtue of the individual's race or sex is inherently privileged, racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or subconsciously. Is it fair to say then that you disagree with Tennessee's law, and by teaching your students that white privilege is a fact, were you then intentionally in violation of this ban?
Well, that law was passed the same day that it passed our legislature the same day that I was given dismissal papers. And I never told that class white privilege is a fact. I let Kyla Janae Lacey give my students, her experiences.
Have students come back overwhelmingly supporting you and disappointed that you got fired?
Oh, absolutely. You know, this has been a very, very difficult time for me. It's, you know, I've lost my livelihood. I've lost, you know, the profession that I care so deeply about. You know, I deeply care for the well-being of my students. And fortunately, I've had a 16-year career of being a good teacher to students, and they have came out and supported me. And I would like to thank them for that. Thank them for, you know, all the messages and text messages and messages on social media that they have sent me, thanking me for being a good teacher to them. And they remind me of little instances that we had in class that, you know, I don't necessarily remember, but I can remember their voices. And it takes me back to a time and a place that brings me a lot of joy and happiness. So I'm very appreciative to those students who have reached out.
Matthew Hawn, we thank you so much for your time and your thoughts. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Davis.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.